You know, sometimes the biggest scientific discoveries don't happen in some remote, faraway jungle. Sometimes they're hiding right in plain sight. Today, we're going to unravel the story of a brand new species found not in some untouched paradise, but in a place completely shaped by human hands.
So, our story kicks off not with some grand expedition, but with what was supposed to be a totally routine survey, one that pretty quickly turned into a genuine biological puzzle.
We're on the Chota Nagpur Plateau in eastern India. And what's so wild about this is the setting. This is not a pristine, untouched rainforest. It's farmland, an ecosystem completely shaped by people. And it was right here, in the middle of all this, that scientists stumbled onto something they just couldn't quite figure out.
What did they find? Well, they found this little guy, a burrowing frog from the genus Spherotheca. Now, at first glance, it looked a lot like other known species in the family, but the closer the researchers looked, the more they realized the details just didn't add up. It didn't perfectly match any existing description. Something was off.
And this brings us to the real heart of our story today. When you find an animal that's almost like something we already know, how in the world do you prove it's a completely distinct, brand new species? Well, to answer that question, the researchers had to launch a full-on scientific investigation. They treated this frog like a mystery that could only be solved with cold, hard evidence.
The official term for their method is an integrated taxonomic approach. I know, it sounds super complex, but it's really just a powerful, systematic way of looking at a potential new species from every possible angle to build a completely airtight case.
And this whole approach really rests on three main pillars. First, you've got to examine its body, every single little detail of its morphology. Second, you dive into its DNA to map out its genetic blueprint, its phylogeny. And third, you look at where it lives compared to its closest relatives. Let's see how they put these tools to work.
All right, so the first and honestly the most powerful clues came from the frog's very code of life, its DNA. This is where the case for a new species started to look really, really strong. Take a look at this. It's basically the genetic family tree for this group of frogs. Think of it like a police lineup of suspects. You've got all the known species there, but the sample from Jharkhand, our mystery frog, is sitting all by itself on its very own branch. It's clearly related, but the tree shows it's genetically on its own path.
And the analysis showed a 2.1% genetic divergence from its closest relative. Now, I know what you're thinking. 2.1% doesn't sound like a lot, right? But in genetics, that is a significant evolutionary gap. It's often more than enough to confirm you're looking at two totally separate species. And it's not just the DNA. The physical evidence backs it all up. Scientists took 20 different body measurements from our frog and its relatives, and then used a statistical analysis to plot them out. Every single dot you see is a frog. And you can see it plain as day. The samples for what they were calling Spherotheca megada form their own tight cluster, totally separate from all its cousins.
And here is where it becomes crystal clear. Let's put it side by side with its closest relative. Our new frog has this little bump on its hind leg called a tarsal tubercle. Its relative has nothing. Our frog has moderate webbing between its toes. Its relative's is barely there. And when it's alive, it has these unique cream-colored bands that its cousin just doesn't have. The physical evidence was undeniable.
So, with both the genetic and the physical evidence locked in, it was time for the final, most exciting step in this whole process. It was time to give our mystery frog an official name.
So let's formally meet Spherotheca megada. That spe novo you see at the end, it's short for species nova, which is just Latin for new species. This is the official way scientists announce a discovery like this to the entire world. And that name, Magadha, is actually a really cool nod to the region's history. Magadha was an ancient, powerful kingdom that once existed in the very same area where the frog was found. So it roots this modern discovery deep in the history of the land itself.
And here we can get a good look at exactly what makes it so unique. You can see this big, shovel-shaped part on its foot, which is perfect for burrowing. But the key piece of evidence, the smoking gun we've been talking about, is right there, marked by the arrow. That's the distinct tarsal tubercle that physically separates it from all its known relatives. Okay, so science has a new frog. That's cool, but what's the bigger picture? Why does one little amphibian really matter in the grand scheme of things? Well, a discovery like this has a huge ripple effect. For one, it literally corrects the scientific record. Frogs that were found here before were just misidentified. But more importantly, it proves that incredible biodiversity can exist and even thrive in places dominated by humans, like farms. It's a huge reminder of how much we still have to learn about life in South Asia, and that the great puzzle of life on this planet is far, far from solved.
Ultimately, the story of this little burrowing frog is just a powerful reminder that amazing discoveries aren't just for remote, untouched places. There are incredible biological secrets still hiding out there in the world we see every single day, just waiting for someone curious enough to take a closer look.
As we look at this brand new face, one that science literally didn't know existed until now, it really leaves you with one final thought. If this was hiding in a farmer's field, what else is out there, living undiscovered in the parks, gardens, and landscapes we pass through every single day?